What's Goosebumps like as an adult? Well, I'll be honest, I'm mainly just wanting to read Werewolf of Fever Swamp again, but before we do that, we have to check out the two stories that came before it. Number 12, Be Careful What You Wish For. And number 13, Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. I hate to say it, but after 11 iconic stories in a row, we're starting to get into the ones that you may have forgotten about if it's been a while. For example, you remember who the main character of Be Careful Who You Wish For was? You give up? Her name's Samantha Bird. Who? Exactly. But hey, just because I don't remember it at all doesn't mean it isn't any good, right? Before we get started officially, if you want to play Goose Bingo during this video, simply scan the QR code, or there's also a link in the description. Last video, when I introduced Goose Bingo, I had some people sarcastically ask how they were expected to scan the QR code while they were watching the video on their phone. So just so you know, if you take a screenshot of a QR code, you can also scan it that way. So yeah, you can do it all on your phone. Okay, Grandpa? I sound like such a jerk. Throughout the video, I'll try to call out the tropes whenever I see them, but as far as I'm concerned, you can mark squares off your bingo card as you see fit. Feel free to let me know how early you got bingo in the comments. Although, frankly, I think some of you are lying. Anyway, the 12th book in the original Goosebumps series, Be Careful What You Wish For, was released in October 1993. You may notice the cover art's a little different, and that's because it wasn't illustrated by usual Goosebumps cover artist, Tim Jacobus. Jacobus illustrated 60 out of the original 62 books. The only ones that he didn't do are this one, and Stay Out of the Basement, which we covered in a previous video. Check out the Revisiting Goosebumps playlist if you want to see the series from the beginning, by the way. Anyway, this cover was done by Stanislaw Fernandez. Honestly, I don't love it. There's a girl looking warily into a crystal ball. Yeah, riveting. The 2005 reprint features a cover done by Jacobus, and I kinda wish we had gotten this one instead. Hell, even the 2009 classic Goosebumps cover by Brandon Dorman isn't bad either. Also, not a fan of the colors here. Too much purple. 1 out of 5 Necronomicons. Gotta say, we're not off to a great start with the book I don't remember at all. But then again, we haven't even cracked it open yet, so. We open on our main character, Sam, at school, being tripped by some mean girl named Judith Bellwood. Oh, looks like Judith thought it was a riot. Being under the false impression that something is a riot is a common phrase Mr. Stein likes to use. A Steinism, if you will, and it usually makes at least one appearance in each book. But in this one, he goes overboard. Everything's a riot. Sam's little brother Ron thinks he's a riot too. Hell, even Sam thinks she's a riot at one point. So yeah, if you've got that square on your Goose Bingo card, you're gonna wanna make sure it's checked off, like 4 times over. Judith hates main character Sam so much that she engages in constant bad bully dialogue, with the phrase, "Why don't you just fly away, bird?" being repeated the most. You may have already forgotten since I said it in the intro, but the main character's name is Samantha Bird. Birds fly. Get it? Mr. Stein goes through many examples of Judith terrorizing Sam, like this scene where she makes fun of Sam getting a chalkboard math problem wrong. They even got the teacher laughing at Sam. I'm gonna say that counts for the bingo square incompetent adult, by the way. There's never any reason given for why Judith hates Sam, she just does. But if I had to guess why, I'd say it's probably because Sam is terrible at basketball. The TV episode actually opens on Sam and Judith at basketball practice, where Judith is shown to be kind of a show-off, and Sam is shown to be really clumsy.
Have a nice trip, bird.
Judith gets so frustrated with Sam's playing ability, or lack thereof, that in the book, she accidentally knees her in the chest during practice. Sam tries to scream, but no sound comes out. She even goes so far as to claim she's about to die. Well, you know, killing off a 12-year-old girl on page 17 is pretty aggressive, but I'm sure Mr. Stein knows what he's doing. Just kidding. She's perfectly okay, just moments later. On her way home from school, Sam bumps into a mysterious woman. In the book, Sam describes her as being of an indeterminable age. She could be 20 or she could be 60. I find this ageless description to be really interesting, but I also can't help but add that the younger you are, the worse you are at detecting an older person's age. So on one hand, it's an intriguing way to describe someone, but on the other, Sam might just be really bad at that. The mysterious woman claims she's lost and asks Sam for directions. Sam offers to walk her across town, and the woman thanks her repeatedly. She introduces herself as Clarissa, the Crystal Woman. As you might guess by the name, Clarissa turns out to be pretty eccentric. She says a lot of weird things, like that she loves the rain because the rain washes the evil away.
Right.
After Sam gets her back on track, Clarissa raves about what a kind person she is, and that most people wouldn't be so kind.
Most young people wouldn't be so kind. You must let me repay you, please.
So good of you to care about a total stranger,
she gushes to Samantha. It's noteworthy how complimentary Clarissa is to Sam in this scene, because honestly, by the end of the story, I don't know what to make of her character at all. Clarissa then reveals to Sam how she wants to repay her.
I shall grant you 3 wishes.
Sam initially refuses before finally blurting out her first wish.
I wish I was the best player on the basketball team.
The best player? Clarissa's a witch, not a miracle worker, Sam. Nevertheless, Clarissa says it shall be done.
You will be the best player on the team.
And we're off. Let the wishing hijinks commence. But first, I have to mention that the woman they got to play Clarissa does a great job of portraying the indeterminable age that Mr. Stein describes in the book. She looks like she could be in her 30s, but dresses and sounds like she's much older. Someone who appears to be 20 and 60 at the same time is almost impossible to cast, but they did a pretty good job for the episode. She's just vague enough to be a little off-putting. Really makes you think, doesn't it? Makes you ponder the passage of time. Like we got a new year just around the corner, 2025. You got any resolutions? Maybe resolutions about your diet? Okay, I think I crammed enough segues in there. This video is sponsored by Factor. Factor is a meal delivery service for chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals sent straight to your door and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50WOLF to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50WOLF at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. So I'm planning on meeting my New Year health goals with help from Factor. I get to choose from over 35 meals per week, including options like Protein Plus or Calorie Smart. Factor is also flexible with your goals, so you can change your order up every week. Some weeks you might only want 4 meals delivered, and other weeks you might want 18. It's all customizable to whatever you have planned. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50WOLF to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50WOLF at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Big thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video. Now let's check back in on our little basketball star. Anyway, so Sam wishes to be the best player on her team, and her wish comes true. Not because she gets any better at basketball, but because everyone else on the team gets much worse. The girls on her team are falling down, missing shots, and even falling asleep.
What is going on out there? Oh, I don't feel so good. Anna, how are you feeling?
Sam feels increasingly disturbed by the whole thing and tries to confide in her friend Corey. but he blows her off. And yes, Corey's the only one of her friends mentioned in the book. Unlike most friends of the main character in Goosebumps stories who eventually believe them that something strange is going on, Corey never believes Sam about the wishes. He laughs at her every time she tries to confide in him. Not gonna lie, Corey kinda sucks. In fact, this will be the last time I mention him for the rest of the video. Eat it, Corey. When Judith and Anna both don't show up to school, Sam gets worried and asks the school nurse, who reveals that both girls are gone. Gone to the doctor, that is. Mr. Stein loves doing these cliffhangers. He'll end the chapter being like, yeah, that's right, these kids died. And then you flip to the next chapter and he's like, these kids died. Their shirt's a different color. Honestly, Mr. Stein is starting to lose its charm. And fast. Sam calls Judith at home and finds out that she feels too weak to come to school. Judith also just blatantly accuses Sam of being a witch and casting a spell on them. Wow, that was your first thought, Judith? I mean, she's half right, but still, what kind of logical person would think something like that? Sam visits the weakened Judith at her house the next day, where Judith keeps banging on about the witch thing. She even says they studied witches in social studies. Sam admits in a rage that she only did it because Judith was so mean to her, which causes Judith to become so full of righteous indignation that Sam storms out of the house. Outside Judith's house, Sam exclaims she wishes Judith would just disappear. And a voice behind her tells her her wish will be granted. She turns to see Clarissa, who's apparently been following her around, as she says Sam's second wish will be fulfilled. This is actually a pretty creepy scene in the book. At this point, we haven't seen Clarissa in over 40 pages, so for her to suddenly appear outside Judith's house like this is pretty weird. Unfortunately, none of this is in the TV episode, I'm guessing because of all the witch talk. Before Harry Potter came along, witchcraft in children's media was kind of frowned upon. Witches were rarely seen even in Goosebumps. Actually, other than Clarissa, I think the only other witch I can think of from the original Goosebumps books is Sarah Beth from Monster Blood. And in the Monster Blood episode, they go to great lengths to never directly call her a witch.
That child is no cat.
There might be more than just Sarah Beth and Clarissa, but the point is that Goosebumps witches are kind of rare. Anyway, back to the story. So, Sam wishes for Judith to disappear, and as you might guess, that's not all that happens. She wakes up in the morning to an empty house. Her brother and parents are nowhere to be seen. No one at school, no one at the store. Soon, Sam realizes that Clarissa didn't just make Judith disappear, she made everyone disappear. You know, I'm starting to think that maybe Clarissa is the worst witch of all time. Like, this is such an inaccurate wish fulfillment, you know?
Oh, you want one girl to be gone? Whoops! I just made 6 billion other people go away too. Don't you just hate it when that happens? Huh?
I like this line right here. Sam's wandering around the empty streets and she just mutters through gritted teeth,
This is all Judith's fault.
The TV version of this wish was way different. Instead of going to Judith's house and arguing about being a witch, she just blows up at Judith at school.
Just leave me alone! I wish everyone would just buzz off!
And everyone turns into flies. Clarissa shows up again thanks to a wild guess that maybe Sam's unhappy with her wish.
I never meant to turn anyone into a fly.
I know. But remember what you said.
Buzz off?
Clarissa then has the nerve to finger wag Sam about the phrasing of her final wish and reinforces that she's just trying to pay Sam back for her kindness earlier. This is what I don't get about Clarissa. I would understand the tragic irony of a character like Judith, for example, making bad faith wishes and being punished for them when they turn out badly for her, but Clarissa's basically punishing Sam for being genuinely kind to her and walking a stranger across town earlier. Like, I don't care how unpredictable the magic is, you just made 6 billion people disappear? Like, come on. You're either grossly incompetent or you're evil. You're not just a quirky, eccentric little witch, okay? Drop the act, Clarissa. See, my superior adult brain would never allow this situation to happen. Get me in there. Finally, Sam reveals her third and final wish.
I wish everything to go back to normal.
Except she wants Judith to think that Sam is the greatest person who ever lived. You can probably see where this is going. Sam arrives at school to see Judith has decorated her gym cubby, and she's also copied her hairstyle. Judith gets the same food as Sam, shoots the basketball like Sam, badly that is, and even sneaks into her room at night just to hang out.
I just love your room. These sheets are so cool.
Shut up.
Judith reveals that since they left their back door unlocked, she let herself in and hid in Sam's closet. Judith becoming this crazed stalker was probably the most disturbing part of the story. Judith waits outside Sam's house for them to walk to school together when Clarissa approaches Sam one final time, offering to grant her a fourth and final wish since she's so unhappy with her last one. So Sam wishes that she had never met Clarissa, and
I wish you met Judith instead.
what happens next differs between the book and the episode. In the episode, Judith makes the kind of selfish wish you'd predict that she would make.
I wish that wherever I was, people would gather around and admire me.
Clarissa winks at Sam and turns Judith into a statue. Now, I think this was a weirdly dark ending for the TV version. Like, you can't say the word witch, but you can show a middle school girl getting entombed in stone for all of time. I mean, wow. Not only that, Sam takes sadistic pleasure out of seeing her that way.
Yes.
Like, I get that Judith is a bully and a mean girl and all that, but she doesn't deserve to basically get murdered in the street like that. And what's weirder is that they even toned her down in the TV version. Basically, all she does in the episode is make some snarky comments. She doesn't knee Sam in the gut or trip her in class or any of the stuff she does in the book, so it makes even less sense in this adaptation. Now, in the book, right after Sam makes her wish, she sees Clarissa and Judith talking, and she slowly realizes that Judith wished for her to become a bird. All those times she said her trademark bully line, "Why don't you fly away, bird?" came full circle in the end as she stares up into the sky with the same sadistic grin on her face that Sam has in the TV episode. Alright, well, at least Sam could still fly around. She wasn't just stuck in one place in the park forever. As for my thoughts on Be Careful What You Wish For, I guess I'd like to first mention what it reminds me of. The Monkey's Paw. The Monkey's Paw is a 1902 horror short story written by W.W. Jacobs. The story revolves around a mystical object called the Monkey's Paw, which is said to grant 3 wishes, but they're granted in a horrible way with unintended consequences. Much like Sam's wishes in Be Careful What You Wish For, main character Mr. White's wishes come true, but they come true in the most tragic way possible. For example, he wishes for 200 pounds, currency, to make his final mortgage payment. And he gets that 200 pounds from the company his son works for after his son dies in a workplace accident the next day. Unintended consequences from wishes is something that pops up from time to time, sometimes in horror, but a lot of times in non-horror. For example, one of my favorite pieces of video game content ever, the Witcher 3 expansion, Hearts of Stone, heavily features a monkey paw style plotline that I won't spoil here. Just go play it already. You've had 10 years. Overall though, I can't say that Be Careful What You Wish For's execution of the unintended wish consequences trope was all that interesting. But then again, it is a children's book. Before we rate this thing, I imagine you're probably looking down at your Goose Bingo card and frowning at how few squares are on it. Well, I have some good news. You're about to get a few more. The TV episode's first commercial break happens mid-scream. And when they come back, we see that Sam's wearing red Converse, which I think should count. In the book, Sam mistakes her dog Punkin for something horrific. And finally, I'm gonna give us the square antagonist has no clear motivation, because whether you consider the antagonist to be Clarissa or Judith, in either case, there's no real rhyme or reason to why they do what they do. Like I said earlier with Judith, the most I could see is that she resents Sam for being bad at basketball, but it doesn't feel like a full explanation. I think we can have the square. I need a Goosebumps gavel or something to smack down. Yeah. Anyway, let's rate this thing. For spine shivers, or how scary the story was, I'm going with 2 out of 5. There's certain short-lived moments like Clarissa jump-scaring Sam outside Judith's house, or Judith hiding in Sam's closet, but for the most part, this is a pretty low-key story. I think the existential horror it briefly explores is done much better in Let's Get Invisible. For funny bones, or how funny the story was, I'm also going 2 out of 5. There's a lot of taunting between Judith and Sam, and Clarissa's kind of quirky, but it's not a particularly funny one. And finally, closet skeletons, which measures the twist. I hate to say it, but I think this one's a 2. I think Sam turning into a bird is corny, and Judith turning into a statue is just way over the top. Overall, I'm giving both the book and the episode a C. I guess I just don't find the whole,
Well, technically, you got what you wished for.
angle very interesting. I find it more frustrating than anything else. I feel like most of the time, if a Goosebumps story isn't that scary, it usually makes up for it by being pretty fun. But this might be the least fun story I've read so far in the series, to be honest. It wasn't a bad story, but it didn't stand out for me either, as a kid or as an adult. Be careful what you wish for, huh? Well, I wish we could just skip to number 14, Werewolf of Fever Swamp. But not all wishes come true. It's time to take a look back at the next one, number 13.
Piano lessons can be murder.
Piano Lessons Can Be Murder is the 13th book in the Goosebumps series, published in November 1993. And you may notice the cover tagline is, "Play it again, hands," which, yes, is a pun. It's a reference to the iconic misquoted scene in Casablanca.
Play them.
Before we get too far into this, you may notice that my copy of this book is in worse condition than the books I usually show in this series, and, well, that's just how it's going to be from now on. I've gotten some comments about these first 12 books being in, frankly, pristine condition. Really unexpected for books that are apparently 30 years old. And some people have asked how I have original Goosebumps books in near mint condition like this. Well, a few years ago, I was looking to fill up my collection just for nostalgia's sake, and I came across an Amazon listing for books 1 through 12. I was missing copies of most of those, so I ordered it. I was kind of shocked when they came in the mail because the 12 books were shrink wrapped as a set, and when I opened it, I was amazed they had no dents, no creases, the paper hadn't started browning yet, it was still white, it was like no one had ever read them. Unfortunately, the listing I found was taken down not long after that, and I don't have any information on the seller or where these books came from. But from what I can tell, I mean, they're all legitimate copies. I guess they were stored in a cool, dry environment for a couple decades. I don't know. But anyway, starting with this book, that all goes away. It's time to embrace the brown pages and the cover creases. These books have been read. I actually really like the cover of this book. The colors have a harsh, messy contrast. I mean, there's bright red, light blue, ivory white keys, jet black piano, and in the middle of it all, you've got these disembodied hands. Still, let's not go crazy. 3.5 Necronomicons out of 5 for this cover. Final answer. Real quick, I just wanted to say that as a kid, the TV adaptation for this one kind of scarred me. There's this creepy ghost lady that they show over and over again, and my little 10-year-old brain just couldn't handle it. I had to cover my eyes whenever she was on screen. Oh no. With that said, on rewatch, she was kind of funny. But we'll get to that in time. Our story begins with young Jerry Hawkins, who just moved into a new house. Jerry in the TV episode is played by Ben Cook, who also played Josh Benson in Welcome to Deadhouse. Every now and then in these videos, I like to check in and see what the actors are up to today. And well, here's what Ben Cook is up to these days. He's making some interesting music under the name Young Gov. Actually, I listened to a couple songs and thought they were pretty cool. Keep up the great work, Ben. As for young Jerry Hawkins, he has quite the vivid imagination.
He made subtle adjustments to his telepathic helmet.
Interestingly, Jerry has a different personality in the books, where he's more of just an annoying prankster. Like in this scene, where he jump scares his dad and makes him drop a kettle. Yeah, good one, Jer. That night, Jerry hears some mysterious music coming from the attic. As it turns out, there's a random piano covered up and hidden away. Jerry investigates the playing, but no one's there. By the way, you've just experienced about half of the story in the book. Jerry repeatedly hears the mysterious piano playing a sad, lonely tune in the middle of the night, but when he checks it out, no one's there. He tries to tell his dad, who doesn't believe him. Usually with Goosebumps parents, they come across incredibly aloof to their children's problems, to the point where I'm often getting really frustrated with how inept they seem to be at basic parenting, but I gotta hand it to Jerry's parents. Not only do they have a tight-knit relationship with him, but there's even an entire chapter where Jerry goes to see a therapist at his parents' behest. I guess it's just nice to see the child character get taken so seriously for once. With that said, the book version of Jerry is one of the more unlikable protagonists we've had. At one point, the dad gets these movers to move the attic piano down to the family room, and the movers almost drop it on the family cat, Bonkers. And Jerry shakes his head saying, "It's too bad they didn't. The dumb cat would have gotten what it deserved." Now, if I had one non-joking complaint about Mr. Stein's writing, it would be that sometimes it kind of comes across like he doesn't like pets. Remember in Welcome to Deadhouse, when their dog Petey just flat out dies? Remember in Night of the Living Dummy, when Mr. Wood starts choking Barky, the family dog? Sure, there's positive animal representation too, like Trigger from Monster Blood saving the day, but I just feel like there's always this threatening aura towards the pets. Obviously, this is all just harmless fiction, so I don't want to take it too seriously, but when you casually write that Jerry wishes a piano had crushed the family cat, you gotta think that maybe it'll make him unlikable to the reader? Just a little bit, at least? Jerry's become morbidly interested in the piano, so his parents signed him up for piano lessons with the Shriek School. So that name didn't set off any red flags with these guys? Jerry meets the owner of the school, someone named Dr. Shriek. Mr. Stein really likes this style of name, I've noticed. Some kind of honorific like doctor or mister, and then a really plain word. For example, the aforementioned Mr. Wood in Night of the Living Dummy, or Professor Shock from Give Yourself Goosebumps, or even more similarly, Dr. Eek, also from Give Yourself Goosebumps. First he makes a Dr. Shriek, then just 3 years later he makes a Dr. Eek. Come on, Mr. Stein. I know you got more names than that rolling around up there. Dr. Shriek is an eccentric old man, but seems mostly harmless enough, with one notable exception. He's obsessed with Jerry's hands. Dr. Shriek constantly makes comments about Jerry's, quote, excellent hands. Not just upon first meeting him, but also during his lesson time.
But with hands like these, I'm sure you'll be a perfect student.
Somebody needs to check this guy's hard drives. That's all I'm saying.
Beautiful hands!
The story continues like this for a while. Jerry hears mysterious piano music by night and hears Dr. Shriek say weird things about his hands by day.
Your fingers are alive, Jerry.
The only other glimpse we get into Jerry's life is a couple pages of him making new friends at school, specifically a girl named Kim. Kim flirts with Jerry for a page or two, but when she hears he's taking piano lessons at the Shriek School, she flips out and runs away. Hard to tell if this is a Riz problem or not. Kim makes a quick appearance in the episode, but she's a lot more laid back. Fun fact, she's played by Erica Luttrell, who also voiced Keisha in Magic School Bus. Finally, 50 pages into the book, Jerry checks out his nightly piano serenade, only to find out that this time, someone's waiting for him.
Dad?
Alright, so we finally met the scary ghost lady that scarred me as a child. Here's the thing, she's in the book, but she's way more involved in the episode. She actually makes her first appearance in the episode just 2 minutes in, when Jerry discovers the piano. And even that was enough to make me cover my eyes. She's not even doing anything. Maybe you're wondering what the big deal is. Well, here's another scene. Okay, listen, as a kid, this was awful. I'd close my eyes and plug my ears. Didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear her. She freaked me out. But now, I mean, what's with the goofy put-on voice?
Stay away from the Shriek School.
But yeah, in the episode, she's very clear about how she wants Jerry to stay away from the Shriek School. In the book, she's much more vague. The first thing she says is, "This is my house." Well, okay then.
This is my house.
Yeah, sure it is, lady. She gets a lot more aggressive after that, telling Jerry she wants him to stay away from her piano. But nothing about the Shriek School. Ooh, look, she's rasping at him. Just remember that, okay? In the book, she never mentions the Shriek School. I'm mentioning it for accountability reasons on her part later. After a lesson one day, Jerry starts exploring the Shriek School, and he gets lost in the hallways. There's some brief confusion where he starts running from a floor sweeper he thinks is a monster when he's rescued by the janitor, Mr. Toggle.
I'm Mr. Toggle.
Hi, I'm Jerry Hawkins. Dr. Shriek said you're a mechanical genius.
I programmed him to say that.
Yes, Dr. Shriek did mention that Mr. Toggle is something of an inventor. He was talking about it just before saying something weird about Jerry's hands again. And actually, Mr. Toggle mentions Jerry's hands too.
And Dr. Shriek has told me about you too. He says you have excellent hands. That's what he looks for.
Later, Jerry sees Kim around the neighborhood and invites her over for hot chocolate, where he grills her about why she ran away earlier. Among other things, she mentions that kids go in for their lessons at the Shriek School, but then never come out. Creepy ghost ladies, adult men obsessed with a child's hands, kids disappearing from their piano lessons. Where's all this going? Well, Jerry's freaked out by it all, so he decides he wants to quit piano lessons. His parents say, of course he can quit, but he has to go in at his next lesson and tell them in person that he won't be having another. He can't just ghost them, no pun intended. Chalk up another point of appreciation for Jerry's parents here. They support him, but also challenge him. It's interesting because I don't think any of the other Goosebumps parents in the first 12 books have been as directly involved in the story as Jerry's are. And it might have something to do with him being the first only child protagonist so far. It's been kind of nice not having any of the annoying sibling characters around, actually. But anyway, we're closing in on the dramatic finale, Jerry's final piano lesson at the Shriek School. And well, it might be the most chaotic finale of all the stories so far. When Jerry tells Dr. Shriek that he's quitting, Dr. Shriek snaps. He says Jerry isn't going anywhere, that he needs Jerry's beautiful hands.
Yes, Jerry, I must have your beautiful hands.
But Jerry's not gonna take this lying down. He breaks free from Dr. Shriek and runs away.
Your beautiful hands!
Dr. Shriek chases Jerry through the school, repeating the mantra over and over to himself. Jerry runs through the hallways, searching for help, when he stumbles upon the recital hall. And what he sees there completely shocks him. Countless disembodied hands, all feverishly playing piano. The climactic music they play makes for a great soundtrack for Jerry's scuffle with Dr. Shriek. That's when Mr. Toggle shows up and disables Dr. Shriek. As it turns out, he was a robot built by the mechanical genius janitor. But Jerry isn't out of the woods yet. Mr. Toggle wants to see his hands.
Your hands, Jerry. Let me see your hands.
You? It's you, not Dr. Shriek.
I need your hands, Jerry.
You're nuts!
Mr. Toggle explains that while he's great at building and inventing things, hands are just too complicated. Too many moving parts. The Shriek School students are where he gets his hands from. Just before Jerry's last lesson, he saw the ghost lady at the piano one last time, and she simply moaned that the stories were true. And Jerry noticed that she had no hands. Speaking of the ghost lady, she decides to randomly show up and confront Mr. Toggle. What happens next differs between the book and the episode. In the book, the ghost lady awakens the spirits of all the disembodied hands, all the former students of the Shriek School. Under the direction of the ghost lady, the hands carry Mr. Toggle off into the woods, never to be seen again. And then Jerry joins the baseball team, where they also tell him he has great hands. Haha. You doing okay? That was a lot, I know. So many twists packed into one climax. The dozens of disembodied hands playing piano all hours of the day. Dr. Shriek being a robot. Mr. Toggle severing the hands of students for decades and somehow getting away with it. The ghost lady from Jerry's house being a former student seeking revenge. It's a lot to process. Probably the most complicated ending of any of Mr. Stein's stories so far. And the episode has an even more complicated twist. The ghost lady isn't a former student in the episode. Instead, she's Mr. Toggle's old piano teacher. And what she takes issue with isn't all the hand severance, but the fact that Mr. Toggle hasn't practiced enough.
Practice makes perfect, Andrew Toggle. It's time for your lesson.
But then, if she was the teacher, how did her hands get severed? Because the whole thing with her severed hands in the book was that she was a Shriek School student. In my opinion, they didn't think the episode twist all the way through. But it's okay, because we got a great climactic scene out of it as Jerry flees the school. That was what freaked me out as a kid. That part. In the episode, it's not really clear whose side the ghost lady is on. And in this last sequence, it looked like she may have been trying to get Jerry as he ran away. I didn't like the ambiguity. In the book, the ghost lady directly addresses Jerry and tells him she was trying to scare him away from the Shriek School, to spare him becoming a victim. Which is kind of rich considering she only appears twice in the book, and the only things she says are, "Stay away from my piano," and "the stories are true." That's how you were trying to scare Jerry away from the school? You couldn't have said something more specific like you did in the episode, where you specifically said, "Stay away from the Shriek School"?
Stay away from the Shriek School.
And then there's the question of, why did you wait until Jerry's life was in danger before going over to the school and instantly conquering it? Kinda seems like she could have done that at any time. Why even warn Jerry? Just go over there and carry Mr. Toggle off into the woods, never to be seen again. Like, what am I missing? Either way, the ghost lady scared me good as a kid, so I didn't really care about the particulars of her story. In fact, I think she was made much scarier because as a kid watching this show over the airwaves with low quality picture, low quality sound, I couldn't understand a thing she said. Take this scene, for example, where she's berating her former student, Mr. Toggle.
You were just a lazy boy. Very clever, but lazy. You could have mastered all your pieces if you'd only practiced. just.
Hearing what she says in high quality audio and seeing her facial expressions in high definition really hits different. She looked much more uncanny on my old CRT TV, and it was made scarier by my 10-year-old ears having no earthly idea what she was saying.
Yeah, Banchado Badago. Yeah, Majako Badago.
I had no idea what she was saying, and that made it scarier. I think if I had known she was saying, you could have mastered all your pieces if you'd only practiced, I don't think it would have had the same effect. The episode ends with Mr. Toggle being held hostage inside the Shriek School and being forced by his former teacher to practice, in her words, for eternity.
How much longer? Till eternity, you lazy boy.
Well, that was Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Definitely one of the more exciting stories we've seen so far. I wish I could say that the story reminded me of something, some kind of trope or whatever, but honestly, nothing really comes to mind. However, Mr. Stein has gone on record saying that this story was inspired by 1953 musical fantasy film, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. The film is about a boy named Bart who begrudgingly takes piano lessons and then has a dream that he's trapped at his music school, where his instructor forces him and 499 other boys to play a giant piano. 500 boys, 10 fingers each, the 5,000 fingers of Dr. T. Got it. I haven't seen it, but it sounds crazy. And by the way, any guess who wrote the story? None other than iconic children's author, Dr. Seuss. In fact, this is the only non-documentary film that he wrote. I wonder if that's why Mr. Stein took an interest in it, since they're both authors of children's books. Before we wrap up, do you still need bingo? Because I happen to have a few last-minute tropes for you. When Jerry first moves into the house, he fantasizes about one of the empty rooms becoming a Nintendo room. This is the kind of language used around video games in the early to mid-90s. All home video games were just called a Nintendo. So I think this should count as an outdated pop culture reference. Midway through the book, Dr. Shriek freaks out at Jerry during a lesson and tells him to play faster and faster. Oh wait, it was all a dream. And finally, Jerry gives himself a little pep talk when walking through the school corridors here. All right, you got bingo now? Good. Now let's rate this thing and get out of here. For spine shivers, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a solid 4 for both the book and the episode. The ghost lady made the episode pretty scary for me as a kid, but as an adult, I have to say, the adult men obsessed with severed hands was a much creepier aspect of the episode for me.
Need your hands. They're exquisite.
For funny bones, I don't know. I wouldn't say there was much humor at all. Maybe a 2 out of 5. I think most of the early books just aren't very funny. In fact, you may be wondering why we even have a funny bones category. Trust me, when we get to the later stories, there are some funny ones. We got one coming up pretty soon, actually. Number 26, My Hairiest Adventure. Yep, it's about puberty. Lastly, closet skeletons. There's so many twists in Piano Lessons Can Be Murder that it's hard to choose which one is the twist. You could argue that it's the reveal of Dr. Shriek being a robot, but I'd say the real twist is Mr. Toggle as the true villain, and the striking visual of all the disembodied hands playing piano. What's cool too is that this is something that's spoiled on the cover, which features a pair of severed hands playing piano. Maybe you saw it coming, but it's interesting to me that the cover turned out to be a literal depiction of what happens and not metaphorical like you might initially assume. Overall, I think I'd like to give both the book and the episode a B. I think they're above average, but the climax features too many chaotic twists thrown in one after the other, and in the episode, the story makes even less sense. For me, the book has a better story, and the episode is more scary and dramatic. They both don't quite hit A level for me, but overall they were pretty good. With that, it's time to check in with the Dread Sheet, which is a table of all the grades so far. Out of 13 books and 11 episodes, the average book grade is a C+, and the average show grade is a C-. So I guess that means so far we're keeping things pretty evenly mixed, with the books scoring slightly higher than the episodes, which I don't think should surprise anyone. You know, as anxious as I am to get to Werewolf of Fever Swamp, I'm glad we took a little time out and checked out these two. I forgot how much piano lessons in particular got under my skin when I was younger. But next time, I'll be dedicating an entire video to this one. It's been a long time since I read it. Does it still hold up? We'll find out. Y'all hear something?